Ladies and gentlemen, hackers and hackettes, welcome to Dorkbot. I'm John Foote. I'll be your MC tonight. I will try and keep stuff short so we can get to the good stuff. Couple announcements. Thank you to Karen for putting everything together. Be nice to your bartender, M back there. Be nice to Larissa, who's cooking nice food. We just heard from Polly. Thanks to Polly for her space. Okay, Jeremy, are you ready to talk about soap? Jeremy's going to talk about soap. We got about half an hour.
All right, well, let's see if we can half an hour. I'm not really all that interested in soap. But I've been, for the past 5 or so years, buying half a cow every so often and keeping it in a freezer in my garage. And because I don't like wasting stuff and I'm kind of a pack rat, I ask for as much of the cow as they'll give me. And that includes fat. Yes. And so I look at this fat and you boil bones to make soup, you get a layer of fat. Come on, this fat. I felt bad throwing it away. I thought, what could I do with it? I'm certainly not going to eat it. Well, if I had that kind of garlic, but we only had, maybe a couple pounds. Right? So I discovered that you could make soap out of fat. So I made some soap out of fat. It was really fun, super easy. I don't know if I can speak any louder. Can you guys in the back hear me at all? Yeah. Okay, good. So soap is kind of interesting. It's pretty simple chemically. It's made from oil. Oil is composed of fatty acids, among other things. Fatty acids are these chains of molecules with carbon and hydrogen and maybe some other stuff in them, joined by, a glycol molecule, which is what ends up turning into glycerin when you make soap. And what I discovered when I started researching how to make soap out of my beef fat is that if you make soap out of any one particular fat, it doesn't have a balanced set of characteristics. You see soap advertised like this is moisturizing soap, or this is for your hands when you're washing cars and crap like that. It turns out that these are all sort of semi-real, actually pretty real characterizations of what soap's good for. So there are about 7 basic fatty acids that saponify when you add lye, or I think any strong base, and they have different characteristics that they contribute to the resulting soap. And since I don't really like measuring stuff, I don't cook from recipes or anything like that, I really hate to fiddle with that kind of crap, I wrote a computer program to say, well, if you have this kind of fat, here's the kind of soap you should make. This is the kind of proportion you should use. And I think that was mentioned in the announcement. And I don't have the opportunity to show that to you here, but I can tell you where it is and you can look at it. In any case, the basic way you make soap is you take your fats and you take a lye and water solution, you mix them together, they start a reaction, and at that point you can let it sit if you want, and it takes about 3 weeks for the reaction to complete. Since we don't have 3 weeks here, I'm going to do a different kind of process, which is called a hot process. The other one's called a cold process, even though it gets hot because the reaction generates heat. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to heat up the oil. I'm going to mix lye and water together. Mix that together until it starts to do the reaction. So making people call that trace because you can drop a little bit of the mixture on top and you'll see a trace of the mixture stay there. And at that point the reaction has started. And what I'll do then is I'll put this pot where the oil is going to be in this other pot full of water, creating a kind of double boiler. And that keeps the reaction going at a faster pace than it would ordinarily. And so with that, the whole process should be over in about an hour. Once we get to that point, I'm sure I won't have any time left, and you guys will be sick of it. So I'm going to take this and move it back there. At the end of the evening, you'll be able to come and look and see what it made. The process that I'm doing now will result in something that's sort of semi-solid and kind of able to poke it and prod it. And it should be usable in a few days, basically, as the reaction is complete and all the extra water evaporates. So, I have coconut oil here, which is basically just coconut oil you would buy in the grocery store. All this stuff is edible.
Even the lye?
Not the lye. Yeah, don't eat the lye.
Just be more
and the lye,
now later on.
Yeah, if you're going to try this yourself, you're welcome to contact me later for advice. You use drain opener. And you want to make sure that it says 100% sodium hydroxide. When you make liquid soap, you use a different kind of base. You use another kind of hydroxide, potassium hydroxide.
Do all soaps have bits of lye in them?
Yes.
Huh.
So, but by the time that the reaction is complete, the lye is gone, because the lye is used as a catalyst to transform the fatty acids into soap and glycerin. So the lye is gone, and that's one of the reasons why you want to do a hot process if you're worried about that. Yes.
You really mean the catalyst? Because
I'm sorry, not a catalyst, not a catalyst. It's consumed in the right. I'm not really sure how the chemistry works, other than at the end the lye is gone, and
So is the body.
you got some soap. So this is cocoa butter, which is made out of cocoa, like chocolate. This particular one has been deodorized, so it doesn't smell like chocolate. So that might be a little bit disturbing for soap. Actually, I made chocolate soap. I'm going to bring some, but of course I forgot. You guys should feel free to ask me questions, because I don't know how interesting this is going to be as I heat it. So what I'm doing now is I'm heating up the oil.
So why do you choose these fats?
Good question. Because you generally, the characteristics you want, the fatty acids that you have available, some of them make the soap hard. Some of them make the soap what they call cleansing. Some of them make the soap have big bubbles. Some make the soap have small bubbles. They call creamy lather. Some make the soap conditioning for your skin. And so people who are more into this than I am have figured out that, well, if you have about 40% of the oils in the soap generating a fluffy lather, then that's good. So what I did for my computer program is I said, generate results that are in this range. So this other oil is grapeseed oil.
I have a stupid question.
Yeah.
So I assume soap is supposed to break down lipids?
Actually,
Out of lipids?
so I just read about this today, and I thought somebody would ask me that. So what happens is the molecule that you end up with at the end has separate charges on either end, and it's a long molecule. So the end that's charged one way, I don't remember which way, ends up attracting the stuff that you don't want on you, and the other end attracts water. So it basically lets that stuff go off of you.
Huh.
So what I'm doing now is I'm heating up the oil. What I want, ideally, is for the oil to be at about 100 degrees Fahrenheit. And I want the lye and water mixture to be at about the same temperature. We're not going to be able to do that today because we don't have enough time to let the lye and water cool down. The only real super dangerous part, in my opinion, unless you're very clumsy and like live in October or hot oil, which I am actually, is working with the lye. You really don't want to get it on you. If I were a smarter person, I would have brought vinegar, because that would have been useful to pour over anything that got lye on it. Once you mix the lye into the water will get very, very hot. A bit of very important advice is don't ever take a bunch of lye and pour water on top of it, because the water will heat up and explode, and you won't be happy. So what we're going to do is we're going to take this water, someone's going to hold it out the window, and then stir in the lye, let it sit for a little bit, and then I'm going to pour it into the oil, at which point the fumes should be pretty minimal. And then after that, we're going to take this off the heat. I'm going to take a stick blender, this thing, and I'm going to blend it until I start to see the reaction happen.
Is there a certain kind of pans you don't want to put lye?
Is there a certain kind of what?
Pans.
Yes, aluminum. You knew the answer to that.
But it's not going to get so hot that you're worried about putting it in plastic.
That's not plastic. That's this one is aluminum, but this one is things.
I was looking at plastic.
Have you made soap before? Oh, you didn't know the answer to that question. Okay, yeah. You don't want lye, since it's kind of nasty, will kind of corrode aluminum. Something which I haven't tested myself on this, but
you say you got started on this whole thing because you had a surplus of beef fat.
yeah.
And we're not working with beef fat this evening.
We're long past that.
If you really did work with the beef fat, what would you come out with?
Beef fat makes a pretty hard soap that doesn't lather super well. It's perfectly good for cleaning.
But first, no nice soft lather.
Yeah, it's not a luxurious soap. And believe me, there's very few people on the planet who care less about soap than I do. But I like, making stuff. Stuff is fun. So this is almost done turning liquid.
So if you use not enough fat, you wind up with soap that still has light.
That's correct. And that will come off as harsh. It won't necessarily burn you when you use it, but it will not feel pleasant. And actually, it's a good lead into another data item, which is that most people who make soap will do something that's called super fatting, which means you add more fat than is required to react with the lye that you add. That way, you're ensured that all the lye will be gone when the reaction is completed, and also people think that it makes the soap richer for you. In order to feel better on your skin. There are, like I said before, there's about 7 fatty acids that react with lye in this way to make soap. There are other oils that don't saponify, and those will sometimes be used as super fatting agents, or the oils with a larger percentage of non-saponifiers
Yes.
will be used as super fatting agents because they have other characteristics that people think are beneficial. And if you are very blessed with a lot of intestinal fortitude, you can, as I did, join all of the internet soap-making mailing lists, which are mostly full of people from Iowa who are really into making soap. And who ask questions like, is lye organic? Did you use organic lye? And I try to stay out of those discussions. All right, so we're close enough here. And now I would like to call for a volunteer from the audience.
We have a free Instructables t-shirt for a great volunteer who's willing to hold corrosive chemicals.
I'll do it.
Okay. So, what I want you to do
No touching.
This is Meredith, by the way. Big hand for Meredith.
No, what's your last name?
My last name?
Yeah. Oh. I thought there was a Meredith that I hadn't met in person, but I knew online. Here.
Do we need to clear the zone here?
What we need to do is be able to hold the thing out the window.
All right, so let's go with this.
Okay, so now we have completely liquid oil in here. And just for fun, I'm going to put in a crayon. That'll make a color swirl, maybe. All right, so we put this on.
Are there other ways of adding?
You can add lots of stuff. Crayons are safe for kids to eat. They generally don't cause adverse reactions to people's skin. People who make fancy soap don't have crayons, but I am. Fancy stuff on it. All right, so now this is the really super duper fun part. All right, so you hold this out the window. The main thing here, the main thing that we're trying to avoid is breathing in the fumes when these things react.
So I have to hold my breath?
Yes, if you hold your breath, that would be good. I'm going to hold my breath also. So what we're going to do is we're going to stir it in. This is the real tricky part because I've never done this way before.
This is the stupidest thing I've ever volunteered for. No, it's all right.
All right.
Look out below.
So we're going to safety goggles too. Would you like to do it better?
You know, sure. You've done more than you And I've done them with safety goggles.
All right, so we're going to hold our breath and hope that most of the fumes go out that way. And then what's going to happen is the water's going to heat up a lot. We're going to pour it. Not enough to melt the cup. At least I've used that Tupperware before. It hasn't melted yet. Come on! And then we're going to pour it in there, and then at that point, most of the danger will be gone.
Look out below. Never made like that.
I like this Dorkbot. This is fun.
grab this.
Did you pre-measure, or are you just eyeballing it, or?
Oh yeah, you can eyeball this stuff.
So what gas is coming off of it?
No idea. Thank you for your reviews.
Hey.
All right. So, most of the danger is gone at this point, unless I take it over or somebody else kicks it over. If you guys are curious, you're welcome to come look. By the way, if you come across this, don't lick it. Or touch
It's
it.
not sturdy, so take a.
All right, so it's kind of turning a little milky. After a few minutes of stirring it, I'm going to start blendering it.
And the heat has been off since.
Kind of, but well. All right, so now what I'm going to do, we're almost done, is I'm going to blend it with this thing.
Is it through the fat espresso?
No comment. No, actually, I'm gonna move the pot. Yeah, I'm gonna take the pot off the little stove so it's a little more stable. You guys have any other questions?
Did you say you wrote a computer program to figure out the best
Yeah.
soap for scrubbing the soap?
Well, I mean, what I did was I wrote a program that would figure out. I used a technique called genetic algorithms, which I don't know if you're familiar with. It's something that's called evolutionary programming. The idea is that you generate a population of recipes, in this case, and you have a way of measuring the quality of each recipe. So in my case, I measured the quality by saying, does it have between 35 and 45% of oils that will make it hard? Does it have between 15 and 25% oil that will give it soft body, that kind of thing? And then you generate about 50 of those at a time. You pick the best ones. You breed them. In other words, you pick based on quality, on low error, and you randomly mix characteristics. And over time, it sounds really stupid, but over time, that ends up giving you a solution to whatever optimization problem you have.
What's your fitness function?
The fitness function is the difference between the ideal quantities of whatever it is that you want and what you actually have. And so you minimize the error in each entity.
What did the people in Iowa say about that?
I posted that to some of the lists and nobody knew what the hell I was talking about. All right, looks like I don't have enough cords, so I'm going to do this on the floor.
How did you do that and not measure it though?
How do you do what?
You didn't measure. How do you know if you're anywhere close to your program?
Oh, no, I measured the quantities of oils before I got here.
Oh, and the light doesn't matter?
No, I measured the lye also. I didn't just pour all of the lye that was in that thing. That was an empty lye container that I had at home, and I carefully measured the right quantity before I got here. Good question. So at this point, it's not super caustic, but you still don't want a hot oil on you.
How will you know when you're done?
What?
You're going for the soft peak thing now?
Yeah, I'm going for what they call trace in soap making parlance, which is to be able to see a mark that if you took a spoonful of the stuff, you'll be able to see a mark of it go on the top. And actually, soon after that, it's likely to get very thick. And if people want to, they can look at the process of the transformation of this soap over the course of the evening. We go through a few really pretty weird looking stages, including turning into a semi-transparent gel. And after that, it starts to harden.
So glycerin is a byproduct. Does that show up as an emulsion, or does that float to the top? How does that?
Contrary to what they said in Fight Club, it does not float to the top. Yeah, it's in there. When commercial enterprises make soap, they typically remove the glycerin and then maybe add it back if they're making fancy soap. But when people make soap at home, it's a real pain in the ass to take out the glycerin, plus it's good. It makes a good soap clean. So if you make soap at home, it has glycerin in it. Sorry?
What is glycerin?
Glycerin is just the chemical that joins the fatty acids in oil. And glycerin soap is soap which has the glycerin in it and maybe more extra added glycerin. And I guess it has some beneficial properties for cleaning you, but I'm not sure what they are exactly. Over and above what soap is. It's almost done, I think. Okay, so if anyone cares to see, you can sort of see it now. This is certainly good enough. And so now it's, for those of you who aren't coming up, it's a sort of a brownish, semi-uneven looking, gross looking liquid. What I'm going to do now, which essentially marks, you know what, the purple went away because I didn't add enough crayons. What I'm going to do now to finish preparing this is I'm going to take the pot, I'm going to put it in the hot water, and I'm going to keep the water simmering for the next hour or so. I'm going to have to attend it because one of the things that happens is the soap erupts. And well, that's why you want to look at it, right? It may or may not erupt given any particular recipe. So what happens is you have to stir it down, and then after that, it's generally okay, let it sit. But you basically have to cook it until the reaction completes. When the reaction completes, you pour it into a mold. I'm going to pour it into this box here. I have the box. And then you let it sit for a day, maybe. You can cut it, and you have soap. So I think I'm probably...
So what's the yield?
The yield? So I had about 1,000 milliliters of oil today, and I expect to end up with about 10 bars of soap at the end. It's a pretty big-ish bar of soap.
And how much does a liter of oil cost?
Oil costs anywhere from, I don't know, $75 a gallon if you get fancy stuff, which none of this is super fancy, to, I don't know, whatever you pay in the grocery store for cheap whatever, canola.
But that's not part of your fitness function.
I did not optimize for cost, but you could easily add that in there, just like you could add any other thing you want.
But there are good oils that are not prohibitively expensive.
Yes. The oils that I picked are generally considered to be nice oils for making soap. Cocoa butter is supposed to be very good for your skin, and I don't pay that much attention to that. I certainly like nice soap. So, and this is the first time I made this recipe, so we'll see how this is. Yes?
Do you have a recommendation for commercial soaps? Dial and Dove and Ivory,
Oh, yeah.
Irish Mist?
So all those soaps they contain soap. They also contain industrial detergents. For the past 10 years, I've been buying these bottles, the gallon bottles of Dr. Bronner's liquid stuff, and I occasionally add scents to it when I'm sick of the scent of the Dr. Bronner's. So I don't know what those soaps are like, but after how easy I found this to be, I'm never going to buy soap again. And it's so entertaining to do that I've been giving it to all my friends, and I have way more than I need. so as far as that, I would say if you get handmade soap, like the fancy expensive stuff, it's probably actually good soap. It's probably actually
What's
pleasant
bad
to
about the commercial soap? What's the downside of these industrial detergents that are added, and are they added to all commercial soaps?
I do not know. I think the downside is probably increased processing, increased industrial processing that I don't know anything about, and therefore I am suspicious of it to some degree. I also don't like to eat things that have lists of ingredients on them, so that's my prejudice. So what I'm going to do now, if I'm sure we're out of time, is I'm going to cover this double boiler. I'm going to take it back to the kitchen, hopefully, and cook it, and then you can come by and look at it later if you want.
Do the commercial people just wait out the cold process? Do they do a hot, or do they have something else that accelerates it even more?
There is, I suspect they do a continuous process. I think I read a little bit about this earlier. I forgot to add sea scent. I'm going to add some oil, some lavender oil. Because soap that isn't scented, actually, it's not that fun.
If you use lavender oil, you have to use purple cream.
Yeah, I already used purple cream, so we're good. And if you make soap on your own, you want to add any scents after the saponification process has started, because the transport for the lavender scent is actually oil, and you don't want that to go away. So since I've added this after the process started, most of that scent is going to remain there. If you do a cold process and you add the oil just when the process itself starts and hasn't gotten very far, then you have to add about twice as much, because half of it will go away.
Do you worry about the scent that way in your super bag?
You can. That's a very good question. I don't know how that plays out. I'm not that experienced with that.
So is this a super fatted recipe?
This is super fatted by 5%, which is pretty standard.
That's what that.
So if I had more time, what I would have done is would have taken 2 stages. Would have added 95% of the oils first, done the blending, waited until a little bit later than this actually, and then added that extra fat to sort of encourage the saponification to take place with the oils that I wanted versus the ones that I did. And I would have also added the scent later. All right, I think I'm done unless people have other questions.
Couple more questions?
I will not dance.
Is there other stuff you can add, like vitamins or anything else?
Some people add vitamin E, which is intended to be used as an antioxidant. I don't know if it's been shown to be effective or not. I mean, people believe all sorts of really stupid stuff about stuff. But I don't know if that's one of them or not. I haven't really investigated it.
When do you add it?
You probably add it after trace. So after because up until that point, there's this incredibly caustic lye in there that will destroy lots of stuff. People also make soap with milk as a base instead of water or coffee or any of these things. They have different characteristics to the resulting soap that I'm not familiar with. Are we done?
Okay.
Thanks for your attention.